Okay, so now let's look at the standard ADSO. So for the standard ADSO, let's look at the purpose and structure. So a standard ADSO is used to store consolidated and cleansed data, transaction or master data, usually for transaction data, on a document level. So standard DSO or standard ADSO stores the data at a detail level. There are three core tables: inbound table, active data table, and changelog table. It is optional. Changelog is optional, which is different than what we used to have in the past. In the past, changelog was mandatory for a classic standard DSO, but here in BW for HANA, changelog is optional for standard ADSO. This ADSO can contain info object and fields, which will allow you to load the data without assigning the info objects if you want so. Data load and activation. Initially, the data is loaded in the inbound table, which is the first table, and then when you activate the data, it transfers the data from the inbound table to the active data table. And if you have selected the changelog to be populated, then the difference of the activation is written to the changelog, meaning the before image and after image is updated, which is used for delta extraction to the further targets. So as you can see from the picture, you can have a source, and then in this scenario, the first scenario is standard ADSO with changelog, which is exactly same as the past classic standard DSO. So with the property changelog, right changelog selected, you can have the three tables populated. First, the data goes in the inbound table. The moment you activate, it goes in the active data table and simultaneously in the changelog table. And for the full extraction to the further data target, the active data is used, and for delta extraction, the changelog is used. You also have an option of not having changelog populated. Remember, the table is always there, it will not be populated. So if you don't select that checkbox, what's going to happen is data is going to first come in the inbound table, and when you activate, it's going to go only to the active data table. That means it cannot support delta extraction. This type of ADSO can only support full extraction. So this is a new option of not having the changelog. Why? You can save the memory. So if you don't plan to send data to a further target, and if you want to save memory, then you can use the standard ADSO without the changelog. Okay. So let's look at a quick example. So with the changelog, suppose I have two requests, request 1 and request 2. Request 1 is for P1, record 1, and 4711 is the value, and the document number is 4711 and value is 10. In request 2 for P1 and REC1, we have 4711 document number and the value is 30. Okay. So when you activate request 1, the value 10 goes and sits both in the active data table and changelog table. And when the request 2 is activated, what happens in the changelog is, because the key is 4711, it will get overwritten. So basically you have to define the primary key for standard ADSO, and in this scenario the primary key is document number. So the document number will be overwritten, the 30 will overwrite the value 10. But in the changelog, you can see that first 10 goes, then a before image will sit, which will be minus 10, and then an after image with plus 30 will go there. So this is how the changelog is populated. So key figures, for example sales amount or any number, can be set to overwrite, but it can also be set as additive or do not update at all. So default behavior is overwrite behavior, but you can change that to additive or no updates whatsoever. So let's look at the data load and activation features. So write changelog, the delta which is new, deleted or changed records is saved in the changelog. The changelog is used to extract the delta to the further data target, and only if the data source has or data store has a changelog, you can actually request, you can roll back the request from the ADSO. That is the status before the activation of the request can be restored. So that means only when you have the changelog, you can have the request rolled back. And without the change log, snapshot support, inventory and planning are not supported. Only unique data record and write enabled are supported. What is snapshot support? So this is a new option given by SAP in the advanced DSO, ADSO. So if your data source only supports or delivers full data set, then ADSO cannot decide by itself if the record not supplied in the full load which were there previously but now deleted from the source, it cannot identify those records. Okay, so it does not compare. But when you select the snapshot support, you are actually telling the ADSO that some data might be deleted, okay, and then the ADSO will compare the previously stored data in active data table and the new data coming up. And when you activate, the system recognizes that these records are not there, okay, in the active data table. So those records are saved with a reverse image R, okay, record mode will be R. So that is what the snapshot support gives us. And unique data records, if you only load unique data records, that means with non-recurring key, okay, then you can select this property. If this property is selected and there is a duplication in the key fields of the DSO, then the request will be failed. It will be cancelled with an error. So this is an example. So data load and activation for full load. So say for example, I had material 111 and I had plant 123. So when first it comes, it will sit with record mode N. N stands for new. Quantity is 100 and unit is kilograms. Same material 222, plant same 123. New record because it's coming for the first time with quantity 150. Okay. Now the scenario is that the quantity for material 111 is updated to 200 and for quantity for 222 is updated to 250. So if that comes, what will happen? The active data table now will have new quantities, which is 200 for 111 and 250 for 222. So the data, previous data is overwritten. But what happens in the change log? The change log will have before and after image. Record mode with X depicts before image and a blank depicts after image. So as you can see, for material 111, first 100 came and then a minus 100 is there with an X, which is before image, and then a 200 comes with a blank record mode, which is after image. So that means the final value will be 200 if you sum them up. And same for the material 222, 150 was there, minus 150 came in, and then plus 250 came in with a blank record mode. So this is how the data is saved in the change log. So as you can see, the active data table will not have any request related information, and based on the key fields, the key figures gets overwritten, and in change log there is a before and after image. Now if you have selected snapshot support, what happens? Okay, so the scenario is that in the new load, the material 222 is not there at all. And please remember, this snapshot support is only applicable for full loads. Okay, so say for example, material 222 is deleted and is not part of the new full load. So what happens if you have not selected snapshot support? The system cannot identify that the material is deleted, and the active table will still contain 222 with 250 kilograms. So that means even though it is deleted from the source, it will not be deleted from the ADSO. But if you have selected the snapshot support, then the system will identify by comparing the load with active tables content, and it identifies that okay, so 222 is not part of the new full load, so that means it should be deleted. So then in the active table it gets deleted, and in the change log you will see that there will be a new record which will say that okay, minus 250, and the record mode is R, which means to be deleted. So this is the usage of the snapshot support checkbox. Okay, so for the extraction part, data used for the update to a further data target is extracted from the table of active data for full or initial load, and for delta, change log is used. And for reporting, when the query is executed, the active data table is accessed. Therefore, only the data that was activated, or that is sitting as activated successfully, will be available in the query. For standard, ADSOs, there is no stable navigation reporting as is the case with the data mart ADSOs. Stable in the sense that whenever, suppose you execute the query and the data is only there till request ID 3, so you will see the data of request ID 3. Now when you are refreshing the query in the next 5 minutes, and within those 5 minutes a new request came and said, so you will see new updated data in the query. So that's what it's referring to. So this is the final picture for the standard ADSO. So as you can see, the data first gets loaded in the inbound table, and then when you activate it, goes to activator table and both changelog table if you have selected the changelog. If you have not selected, it will only go to the active data table. And then for reporting, for if there is a reporting activated, it will access the active data table. And for the extraction to further data targets, if it's a full load, it will go to the active data table. If it's a delta load, then it will go from the changelog. And if you have not selected changelog, then delta extraction will not be supported, only full load will be supported. So this is the features of the standard ADSO. Next, we will look at the staging ADSO.